that's another big one. Like a big one. Don't stall out on me, go on down there. Yeah, yeah. There's your big one right there. And that is why you throw a jig. So actually we're in the mouth of a short little pocket again. And probably a 3-pounder, but these fish are just staged out on a main lake point right here. It's a short little bluffy style point. I'm throwing a really light ball head jig. This is a Crush City cleanup crawl. And what these spots are doing is they're just swimming down these shelves. They wasn't committing to a worm style profile bait that great, and it's cloudy. I switched to a more beefier style profile and got a bigger bite. So that could be a quick little adapt we've done to get bigger bites. I'm basically using my LiveScope to make sure every cast I make is on a fish. So we just didn't know these fish were suspended, but a lot of these fish are suspended. They're just sitting here staged up, and I'm casting a jig on them. I'm making them go down to the bottom just because they've seen 100 minnows, and I'm trying to switch it up and throw something a little bit different on them. They're sitting 5 to 10 foot off the bottom, majority of them. And I'll cast my jig out there, let it go down to the bottom. They'll follow it down, nose down to it. And it's basically like sight fishing. You're playing a cat and mouse game with them. Each fish is a little different. Most of the time I start off with just a subtle little shake, or sometimes I'll just pick up and hold slack, or just hold tension to it so I can feel them when they do grab it. But occasionally when a fish is staring at it, you can pop it and get the fish to react to it and get just a snap at it and grab it. I go off feel. Whenever I feel her grab it, I'll let her swim for it for just a second, and then I'll just lay the beans to her. It's going right on her head. There she goes. Big one. 2 of them. That one might get it before she goes down there and gets it. No way. There's actually a bunch up underneath there, sitting on them cables and stuff. A little better than average. See how muddy the water's been with how pale they are. There's a bunch of cables that run down under these docks, and these fish like to sit on cables for whatever reason, and you can get it up underneath there to them, they tend to bite a lot easier. With this jig here, I'm throwing 7.3 heavy. This is a 13 fishing meta. I've actually got this on 20-pound line on a Concept A2 13 fishing reel with Suffix 20-pound line. So I'm using heavy line. Everybody says on clear lakes they're line shy. I don't tend to go any lighter. I like 20. I've been throwing it around cables and the metal pieces on the docks. I broke off on a bunch not throwing heavy line, so I tend to throw heavy line on a jig, especially when I'm flipping it around cover like today. It's just a smaller profile bait. I've got a Crush City cleanup crawl on the back of it. It's a smaller profile bait, but it's also bulky for a spot. You gotta think a spot, it's got a small mouth, kind of like a small mouth. This is probably a 1/2 ounce or something like that. There's like 20 sitting on the boat right now. Watch this. Back last. Swimming a jig. That was fun. Well, I actually skipped it up underneath there and hung up in the jungle, and I reeled my jig out of there, and I seen like 10 chasing it with my eyes. I just got the bright idea to skip a purple and yellow looking jig up underneath there with old cleanup crawl on the back of it. They couldn't resist it. There's actually a bunch more under there. I might catch another one, I don't know. But the same principle thing, it's the first dock coming into the pocket. They're just sitting up underneath these shallow floats staging. You can see the fish all following my swim jig in. All this other stuff hanging around the dock, like you can tell how close we are to the bank, and they're just sitting right under these corners of these docks, just really just floating underneath. Well, these fish floating like this, they tend to get tricky to catch because they're over 30 foot of water, so you can't sink nothing down, and a minnow is really hard to skip up underneath there. So it goes back to sort of like a shad spawn deal. You're basically just skipping a jig up underneath there and trying to make them react, come up. All right, for my swim jig here, this is a 1/4 ounce swim jig. I'll throw a lighter swim jig, I can reel it a lot slower because this water's not super hot. I got a cleanup crawl on the back of that as well, same color. Here on Smith, not around much grass, I tend to throw a medium heavy. It's got a little bit more give on the tips, gives enough time to load up, so when you do hit the fish, you don't tend to pull it away from them. All right, so as y'all can tell here on the map, we're just in a short, small pocket. We got deep water out here in the mouth of all these little short creek arms. I actually caught a big one off that point and the initial first dot going in each side of these little short pockets. That just shows they're sitting in the mouth of these pockets. The water's still pretty cool, so if you didn't have scope, it's no big deal. You got a map, you can tell there's a point right here, and that initial dot going in there, we caught one there. They're just on the first dock, so it's really anything in eyesight that you think could hold a bass that's had a bass on it, so you don't necessarily have to have scope to catch these fish. Now, figuring that little pattern out, catching them on these short pockets and an initial dock, it's something you can run all over the whole lake, because this just seems to be where the spots are staged up at.